The Yucatan Peninsula. 60 inches of rain per year. Dense tropical jungle. Sounds like paradise, right? Wrong. Modern survival experts call it a water desert. The limestone bedrock drains every drop into underground rivers. No surface water for 8 months. You're surrounded by green jungle, but you'll die of thirst in days. The Maya didn't just survive here. They built cities of 50,000 people. Tikal, Calakmul, Palenque, massive stone pyramids rising above the canopy. They engineered 20 million gallon reservoirs, created filtration systems 1,500 years before modern water treatment, mastered agriculture in impossible conditions. Then around 900 AD, the cities went silent. Abandoned. The jungle reclaimed everything. Spanish conquistadors arrived 600 years later and found only ruins buried under vegetation. They thought the Maya had vanished. But here's what they missed. The Maya never disappeared. They're still here. 7 million people speaking Maya languages today. Their descendants live in the same region their ancestors built those pyramids. This is the story of how they survived an impossible environment for 2,000 years. What caused the collapse? And why we've lost most of their engineering knowledge forever. The Yucatan is a geological trap. It's pure limestone, porous limestone. When rain falls, it doesn't pool on the surface. It drains straight through microscopic holes in the rock into underground aquifers. Rivers exist, but they're 100 feet underground, completely inaccessible. For 8 months every year, the dry season, there's almost no surface water. The humidity is crushing, 80 to 90%. Your body sweats constantly trying to cool down. You lose water faster than you can replace it. Modern hikers die here from dehydration despite being surrounded by lush jungle. The Maya solved this with cenotes, natural sinkholes where the limestone bedrock collapsed, exposing the underground water table. These weren't just wells. They were sacred portals. The Maya believed cenotes led to Xibalba, the underworld, home of the gods. But cenotes are randomly distributed. Some areas have many, others have none. And a city of 50,000 people needs more water than a few sinkholes can provide during dry season. So the Maya became engineers. At Tikal, they carved a reservoir into solid bedrock that held 20 million gallons. That's not a pond. That's an engineered lake. They lined it with multiple layers of plaster to prevent seepage. Every drop was precious, but collecting 20 million gallons required infrastructure. They turned entire cities into water collection systems. Every plaza was plastered with limestone cement, not for decoration, for drainage. Rain couldn't soak into the ground. It flowed through carefully designed channels into reservoirs. Every pyramid, every building, every courtyard had drainage built into the architecture. When it rained, the whole city funneled water into storage. It was urban planning on a scale that wouldn't be seen again until the Roman aqueducts. And they filtered it. Recent excavations found sophisticated filtration systems, layers of sand and gravel to remove debris, and zeolite, a volcanic mineral that removes toxins and bacteria. The Maya discovered natural water purification 1,500 years before modern treatment plants. Water was solved, but food was next. You can't grow crops without clearing jungle, and the Yucatan jungle fights back. Trees grow so dense that sunlight barely reaches the ground. The Maya used slash-and-burn agriculture. Cut down a section of jungle, burn the vegetation. The ash enriches the soil. For 3 to 5 years, crops thrive. Corn, beans, squash. Then the nutrients deplete, and you move to a new plot. The old field regenerates for 15 to 20 years before you can farm it again. This worked for small populations. But 50,000 people in a single city? You need advanced techniques. They built raised fields in swampy lowlands. Artificial platforms of soil elevated above water. The surrounding water keeps crops moist during dry season. Decomposing swamp vegetation continuously fertilizes the soil. These fields could be farmed year after year without depleting. In hilly terrain, they carved terraces into slopes, stepped platforms that prevented erosion and maximized farmable land. Some of these terraces are still visible today, 1,000 years after abandonment. And they practice polyculture, not single crops. The three sisters, corn, beans, and squash planted together. Corn provides a stalk for beans to climb. Beans fix nitrogen in the soil. Squash leaves shade the ground, preventing weeds and retaining moisture. It's a self-sustaining agricultural system. They supplemented farming with hunting and gathering. Deer, peccaries, wild turkeys. They harvested cacao for chocolate, vanilla, chili peppers, avocados. The jungle provided if you had the knowledge, but surviving wasn't enough. The Maya built one of the world's great civilizations. And the pyramids, not just religious monuments. They were astronomical observatories. This wasn't primitive survival. This was sophisticated civilization built in an impossible environment. Then it collapsed. Around 800 AD, something went wrong in the southern lowlands, the heartland of classic Maya civilization. Construction of new monuments stopped. Royal dynasties ended. By 900 AD, cities that had stood for centuries were abandoned. People just walked away. This is the classic Maya collapse, and it's one of history's great mysteries. The leading cause? Drought. Climate data shows the Yucatan experienced severe droughts during this period. Not one drought, a series of them, some lasting decades. Remember those engineered reservoirs? They depended on consistent rainfall. When the rains failed for years, the reservoirs ran low. Cenotes that had provided water for generations started drying up. Agriculture collapsed. The slash-and-burn system required specific timing with rainy seasons. When those seasons became unpredictable, crops failed. Famine spread, but the Maya made it worse themselves. Centuries of deforestation to clear farmland and fuel lime production for building plaster had stripped the landscape. This caused soil erosion and may have intensified local droughts. They damaged their own environment. Political warfare escalated. The classic Maya city-states were always competing, sometimes fighting. But as resources became scarce, the conflicts intensified. Archaeological evidence shows increased warfare during the collapse period. Trade routes were disrupted. Cities were burned. And there was a crisis of faith. Maya kings weren't just political leaders. They were divine intermediaries between the people and the gods. They were responsible for ensuring rain, successful harvests, and cosmic balance. When the rains failed year after year, when crops died, when enemies attacked, people lost faith in their rulers. Faced with starvation, war, and collapsed authority, people voted with their feet. They abandoned the great cities. Some migrated north to the Yucatan Peninsula, where cities like Chichen Itza and Uxmal continued for several more centuries. Others dispersed into smaller villages in the countryside. The collapse wasn't the end of Maya civilization. It was a transformation. The era of divine kings and massive stone cities ended in the southern lowlands. But Maya culture endured. When Spanish conquistadors arrived in the 1500s, they found thriving Maya kingdoms in the northern Yucatan and Guatemala highlands. The conquest was brutal and took decades. Many died from European diseases, but the Maya resisted, adapted, and survived. Today, over 7 million Maya people live in Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador. They speak more than 30 distinct Mayan languages. They practice traditions passed down for thousands of years, often blended with newer influences. The weaving patterns you see in Maya textiles today trace back to ancient designs. The agricultural techniques, the stories, the connection to the land, it's all still there. But the large-scale engineering knowledge? That's mostly lost. When the cities were abandoned, the techniques for building those massive reservoirs, the filtration systems, the complex water management, that expertise disappeared. The Maya didn't write engineering manuals. Knowledge was passed orally, through apprenticeship. When the master engineers died or dispersed during the collapse, that knowledge went with them. Modern archaeologists are still discovering how they built those pyramids without metal tools, how they moved multi-ton stones through dense jungle, how they achieved such precision in their astronomical observations. The pyramids stand silent in the jungle, testimony to what was achieved. But how exactly they did it? Much of that is gone. So here's the truth. The Maya never vanished. That's the biggest misconception. The collapse was political and economic, not the extinction of a people. The cities fell, but the Maya endured. Their civilization transformed, adapted to new realities. The descendants of the pyramid builders are still there, still speaking the language, still carrying the culture forward. The story of the Maya isn't a mystery of disappearance. It's a story of human resilience, of building greatness in an impossible environment, of surviving catastrophic climate change and political collapse, of losing much, but preserving what matters most: the people, the language, the culture. The jungle reclaimed the cities. but it never reclaimed the Maya. Which other ancient civilization mastered an impossible environment? The Incas at extreme altitude? Ancient people in Death Valley's 134-degree heat? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories about ancient survival and lost knowledge, hit subscribe. The Maya story is just the beginning.